As a rule, I only use Facebook for Messenger. But like any rule, every now and again it's going to get broken. The other day, I was doing a little bit of surfing on Facebook, looking up an old friend and one or two acquaintances to see if I could find them. And I ran across a piece of art from an artist that I had first become acquainted with, or at least their work I became acquainted with, about 30 years ago when I was a pastor in training in Kitimat Village on the northwest coast of British Columbia, Canada. The artist's name is Roy Henry Vickers. He is a native artist, and I apologize to Roy, but I am not sufficiently educated in his family history to even attempt to give a description of the village he comes from and his people. If I did, it would just end up being a terrible insult to all of his ancestors. So I'll simply say that he is a native Canadian, born on the west coast of British Columbia, Canada, or what is now known as British Columbia, Canada. And he is a world-class artist with a world-class heart that he tries to express through his art. Which brings me to the latest piece of art of his that I saw. It is a marvelous scene depicting a canoe being paddled into a brilliant sunrise. Uh, and the idea behind it is that we are all one spirit. And I agree with that. Absolutely. I have had the privilege of being born into a lower middle class working family in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada in the 1950s, 51 to be precise. And from there, I did the average things that average people did, eventually finding myself being trained by a native community on the west coast of Canada. From there, after about 5 years, a little less than 5 years, I left and found myself married to a marvelous woman who is of Filipino origin. And we ended up living in the Philippines, where I have been officially an expat for 25 years, I guess. And during that time, through my 74 years come September, I have come to realize that as much as we are different in many ways, people are people. We all have the same core needs and desires. How we express them is different. Um, One example is my friend Rick. Now, back in the day, he started motorcycling on I believe it was a 125cc twin-cylinder Honda. I started off on a 90cc single-cylinder Honda, and we got larger and bigger motorcycles. And his path took him back to Ontario. Mine took me up the coast to lighthouse keeping and being a pastor in a village. And along the way, Rick decided that what he truly loved in motorcycling was best expressed by that marvelously loud, big, powerful Harley Davidson he bought and rode into the last years of his riding before his bad back gave out on him and he couldn't ride anymore. I found that the motorcycle I have most loved and enjoyed was a Suzuki 650 Savage. It was everything I had ever wanted my 650cc Triumphs and 500cc Triumphs and 650cc BSAs to be. It was low. It was set up with a solo seat. It had incredible torque, although not that great at top speed, but it wasn't built for top speed. It was built for torque and to look good. And I loved that Suzuki. It was truly me on two wheels, the same as the Harley was Rick on two wheels. We were doing the same things differently. And that's what one of the lessons I learned in the village, Kitimat Village by name. If you look at old maps, it would be called Kitimat Village Mission because the Methodist Church had a mission house there, and they were doing some good things and some not so very good things. Uh, but they were evangelizing the native community to become Christian. And that's a different time and a different place and a different story. And did they do bad things? Yes. Did they do good things? Yes. And I'm not going to get into it here. Suffice to say, that's the village I was in. It's now called Heisla. And the first thing I found out when I moved there was that in my heart, I was still a person that was a Scottish clan member. I fit without a problem into the clan structure in the village. Well, a problem did arise, but the feeling in my heart and soul was that I'd come home. I had found my essence. I was not a wannabe Indian. I was a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant that had been raised mainstream Canada that never fit, that went to an Indian village to find out that where my heart was in the clan structure and the mountains and the fjords and the lakes of Scotland. And when I got to the village, all that was inside my genetic makeup for thousands of years surfaced, and I found it a very easy transition into village life. And it was marvelous. And that's what this little short video is all about. It isn't our differences, because we have lots of differences. The color of our skin, the color of our hair, the size of my waistline versus your waistline. The fact that I was a pretty good pilot and a pretty good motorcycle rider, and I enjoyed being a lighthouse keeper. And for most of the people that are going to see this video, they weren't pilots. They didn't ride motorcycles the way I did, and they were never lighthouse keepers. So we're different. We are not equal. But we are all children of the stars. From the scientific point of view, the Big Bang goes bang. Stars are made, they die, they throw out chemicals and heavy this and weird stuff that. And sooner or later, planets are formed, and from the planets, we're formed. And lo and behold, we are children of the stars. From a Christian perspective, look to the book of Genesis. God sees chaos. Everything's all over the place. There's no order, there's no rhyme, no reason. And God makes a refuge for humanity. And that refuge, he separates the waters from the dry land and da 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 da. The story goes on, and then he creates us out of dust. And he creates us. He doesn't create the Jews. He doesn't create the Arabs. He doesn't create the Indians. He creates us. And we go along and we split, and mythology teaches us more about that split. But we started as one. We started as one in science. We started as one in mythology. And it is the greatest shame and problem of humanity's existence that we have lost the oneness. We have moved into the otherness, where other is enemy and enemies are to be done. Now, the artwork of Roy Henry Vickers that is going to be in the same post as this video is all about the thought that we're one. Now, Roy will probably not remember this, but I once put out a blog, and I believe that blog, the artwork in it, was a pair of eagles that Roy had drawn in the shape, and the easiest way to describe it is two eagles that make the shape of a Valentine's Day heart. And the message with it was, we're all one. And I used my blog to express how I had moved to the village. And by moving to the village, I had found my own roots, that the waters and the mountain of the coast talked to my inner being. And I felt the oneness of being with that natural environment. And I felt that it was very close to the way that the people in the village that I lived with expressed it. And Roy came back and said, Brian, thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself. And we both agreed that there is a oneness. And now, I would love to say we developed into long, deeply connected friends after that, but Roy went his way and I went my way. And it wasn't until just the other day when I saw his art again, and I thought, that's beautiful. So I sent him a message and I asked him if I and my wife, who teaches peace and development at the university level, could use that piece of art he had created. And he said, go ahead, Brian, as long as your message is positive, you can use it. And I believe I have honored his request today, in that this message is a positive message. About as much as we are different, we are also very much the same. And excuse me, I get old and I smoked for 50 years and my lungs don't always work right. But as one person put it, and I'm going to put it badly, but it was pointed out at a meeting that just because we work together in unity, we do not necessarily work together in uniformity. We don't walk in lockstep. We do not goose step down the road in our uniform. Some of us have got long hair. Some of us have got short hair. Some brown eyes, some green eyes. I don't have all my teeth anymore, and I'll bet some of you do. We are all different, and we should honor the difference, respect the difference, glorify the difference, but we should also glorify the similarities. The fact that any parent, not any parent, but most parents in most cultures want their children to be healthy. They want their children to be well fed. They want them to be educated. They want them to have a happy life. They want them to be loved. Now, just how that is done and what that means in their culture may be different, but the theory is the same. back in Canada, there was a time when if I went to one of my buddies' houses to enjoy a night out, we'd have cold beer and pretzels and potato chips. In the Philippines, in a different cultural setting, I got to share Coca-Cola and small barbecued dried fish. But it was the same theory. You're with your friends, you have food, you have drink, you have laughter and love, you share the table. We do the same thing differently. And if we accept that that's okay, and it is, then we get along a lot better. That's all I'm saying. Roy's painting is beautiful and it captures the essence. And I hope I've honored his request to do it in a positive way, this message. And for now, that, my good friends, is the end of this recording. Have a good day.